back to Coffee and Cream, a podcast where we are changing the narrative one cup of coffee at a time. My name is Jake, and I'm here with Matt.
What's going on, Jake? How you feeling, man?
Feeling good. We may sound a little different, and we may look a little different if you're watching us on video. So, through some miscommunication, we have been locked out of our studio. And so we pivoted very quickly to my living room.
Yeah.
So we just kind of set up shop. We'll post some Instagram photos so people can see the setup we have. We have my cat wandering around my equipment right now. That's fine. So we just have like the craziest setup right now. But yeah, we don't have the usual David Butler magic touch right now.
Miss you, bro.
Yeah, we miss you, David. Sorry. This sounds like this. But we're here now. And we're making the best of it.
Yeah, man.
It's good. So I want to, before we start talking about what we're talking about today, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Swish Coffee.
Yeah, boy.
Swish Coffee. These guys are doing a lot in St. Louis, creating conversations, empowering people to have those conversations, and making incredible coffee along with that. So guys, check them out at switchcoffee.co. You can use our promo code coffee and cream to get 10% off your next order.
Yeah, boy.
We gotta get some beans this weekend.
Yeah, boy.
That's our move.
Really?
Yeah, we gotta get some.
Yeah. All right.
So we'll get some. But yeah, I also want to give a shout out to JM Films. If you want to connect better and grow your audience, then you need to go to JM Films. Go to jmfilms.com, and he can provide you with multitude of means to get your video up and going so you can better connect with your audience.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
He is.
So that's it for sponsors for this month, at least. So Matt, why don't you go ahead and read our verse for today, and then we'll kind of dive into what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, bro. Our verses for today are coming out of Psalm 75, looking at verses 1 through 3. It says this. I'm actually reading from the New Christian Standard Bible, published by Holman. It says this. We give thanks to you, God. We give thanks to you, for your name is near. People tell about your wondrous works. When I chose a time, I will judge fairly. When the earth and all its inhabitants shake, I am the one who steadies its pillars. So just coming out of this passage, and he talks about how God is the God that judges. He's the one that says what is right, what is wrong, what is right, what is wrong, and how we have to look to him. And so sometimes it's hard to see that when things are hard and relying on God to be the justice. Sometimes you have to think back a little bit. Yeah. You have to look back in the past on how in the middle of chaos and suffering and hardships, that through that God's judgment was there, and we are seeing things move forward.
Yeah. He is the sovereign. He is the creator. He is the sustainer. And in the midst of the craziness of the world, he is still God. He is still Lord. He is still acting and moving and ruling over all things. And he is coming back again to judge the wicked and the righteous.
Yeah, he is.
So this is a great transition to kind of what we're talking about. We didn't intend on doing this week. This kind of just came up short notice, but I thought it'd be good for us to kind of talk about it a little bit. But we're kind of talking about the 1 year anniversary of the Charlottesville riots. I think we're recording this on Saturday, and so this time last year they were marching with the tiki torches on UVA. Is it UVA? Did I get that right?
I think it was UVA.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I read it, but yeah.
Yeah. They're on a college campus walking around with tiki torches. That's all you need to know. Then the next day, just the riots happening, and Heather Heyer loses her life. So it's just kind of crazy to think that it's been a year.
Yeah, bro.
It's been a year since Charlottesville. And there's another Unite the Right rally plan for DC tomorrow, which is Sunday, August 13th. Yeah. I can get my dates right on that. But 12th actually. So it's just kind of crazy to think it's been a whole year since this has happened, and kind of just reflecting back on it. I was kind of crazy because I was going back through our text messages from that time period, and I texted you because this was I just was scrolling through Twitter on on the day that the riots were happening, and just being like, hey man, you doing all right? And just checking in on you. And we started talking about like, we need coffee and cream.
Yeah.
We need some coffee and cream.
Yeah,
and a year ago, it's just crazy to think like a year ago we didn't have coffee and cream doing this, and now we have this outlet to kind of talk about and process these things together. So dude, maybe let's step back. What happened? Let's talk about what happened a year ago. Yeah. Because maybe people aren't maybe super familiar or just need like a refresher on what happened. There was the alt-right planned a Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville under the pretense of protesting the fact that Confederate monuments were being removed. Yeah. However, after looking at some posters that they had spread throughout the internet, there was more going on there than just the Confederate statues.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they came. And they came with tiki torches, and just I feel bad for tiki torches, honestly, because it's just such a bad brand look to have like the tiki torches. I mean, it's like 300 white dudes, and there were a few ladies there walking around with tiki torches, chanting, "You will not replace us. Jews will not replace us. Blood and soil, blood and soil." Just chanting these incredibly racist things as they marched through campus. And then the next day they planned for speakers to come, but Antifa and other left-wing organizers came and kind of stopped them from having these speakers come. And a lot of fighting broke out. Kind of moved them to a different part of Charlottesville, eventually having the whole thing kind of shut down by police. From there, around 1:44 in the afternoon on a year ago from today, Heather Heyer was killed when a car sped down to protesters and just smashed into cars and people. And man, that was... I remember when I was scrolling through Twitter, and like the instant those videos appeared was when I saw it. I was just in shock. Yeah. And that's when I texted you to see if you had been watching kind of what was going on. So man, kind of, what are some of your thoughts? What was kind of going through your mind as you were watching the stuff that was happening in Charlottesville?
Man. Yeah, during that time, I think there were several thoughts running through my mind. Some of them were like, this can't be real. Like, we've seen these things happening in history books. We've seen it in fiction novels and film. We've seen it in nonfiction documentaries and things like that. But this cannot be real right now.
Sure.
And I think that was like one of the first thoughts that happened to me. And then after that, the flood of emotions came in, and I was trying to process it all at one time. Yeah. Yeah, and so part of that was a lot of, okay, should I be angry about this? Okay, yes. Okay, what does my anger look like in this situation? Yeah. Is it righteous anger? Is it godly anger? What would I do if my brother was in that city? What would my parents do if I was in that city? Yeah, and so, yeah, all that was happening. And I don't know, I was just in this weird place of, I can't fix it. Like, part of my, so the Enneagram says I'm a 2, which means I want to fix everything that's wrong all the time. Like, okay, that's just my natural. Yeah. And in that situation, like, I knew the answer to the whole mess, regardless of what angle we came from, was the gospel. Sure. Yeah. So I was like, how do we help churches down in that area? Like, it was a thought in my mind, but I don't have the connections for that. And so, like, I was praying. I was like, is prayer enough? You know, I was like, yeah. So all these things are happening at one time within 24 hours of each other. And I remember the Sunday after that going to church and just so distraught I could barely talk to people without my emotions like pouring out of me. Yeah. So yeah, I was kind of a wreck in that day. What about you, man? Like, I know you text me, and I don't know if I can't remember if I text you back, but like, you just kind of remind me and just let our listeners know, like, what were you thinking? What were you feeling at that time?
Yeah, so I kind of been following what was going on throughout the day, and I knew going in what the alt-right was and kind of what they were about. I'm a political junkie, so like I love being up to date on news and checking Twitter and seeing what the latest news is for kind of that kind of stuff. And so I kind of knew what was going on, but I think just kind of the just kind of the images and the audio that were coming out of that, just the chanting, the blood and soil, and just having like seeing actual Imago Days saying Jews will not replace us. Like what? Yeah. That just it blew. I was in shock. Like I knew like the alt-right was bad, but like just to see it in person just changed everything. Yeah, man. And then once the fighting broke out, I expected that when you have Antifa and the alt-right together, expected violence to happen. But once there was report of a death there, you're just like, oh my gosh. I mean, processing through it, I was in shock. Yeah. And it was kind of, I don't ever remember a time where I got angry at what was going on. I think I was just more in just absolute lament. Yeah. I just felt sad. Yeah. You know, I felt sad that you had people who were just destroying the Imago Dei, and you had people who from both ends just completely disregarding the fact that we were made in the image of God, and then just the fact to have life taken. Yeah. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. And brought it even more to the forefront, because at that time we were talking about doing a racial reconciliation podcast. Yeah. And then you had, boom, just like this lightning rod of race and violence and white supremacy just like happened in like a weekend. And it was crazy. And I think that really helped accelerate our podcast getting going. Yeah. Really helped spark more conversations around those things. But I know you mentioned being just distraught and angry. Like, what were some of the things that you used or did to kind of process through those things? I don't want to put you on a spot or anything, but like,
no, this is a real conversation.
Yeah. Just, I mean, was there a point where you had to confess those things, or was there a point where how did you manage those emotions in that moment in a godly way?
Yeah, I think in the moment it was just a lot of prayer. Yeah. Like just constant praying, like, God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm an emotional person. Sure. And I'm able to read other people's emotions and help them talk with that. But when it comes to my own personal emotions, I don't know what to do with them a lot of times. And so I think one of the most helpful things was during that time, not only were we talking about doing that podcast, but I was spending a lot more time in prayer with the Lord, dealing with those things. And then I was also really fresh into a relationship around this time last year with my girlfriend, who happened to be a counselor, and is like, we're similar, but also we're different enough. And one of the biggest ways we were different is that she knows how to help me process my emotions. And so talking to her about those things, and like, I'm angry. I don't know what this anger means, but I feel angry. Sure. About the situation, and fighting against the idea, because like, there is a fighter in me when it comes to these things. Yeah. But I also want to fight in the right way. And so like, how do we combat racism in the right way? So talking to her was really helpful. Talking to the Lord daily. Because I remember trying to, we were at a church and I was supposed to be talking on the microphone and I could barely do words. Yeah. And I was like, I was so fully distraught because at that point I had not processed all my emotions. Yeah. So.
Because it happened Saturday. Yeah. And then Sunday was church.
Like that. Yeah. I was reeling, man. And so it took a few days. And I think that's one thing that I think people have to realize and understand and grow in, especially a person like me, is sometimes it takes more than a day. It takes sometimes more than one prayer or two prayer to work through those things, something as terrible and horrible as that. I mean, you've had, like, when 9/11 happened all those years ago, people spent probably years in counseling trying to get over those things, try to deal with those things when they saw it firsthand, when they saw it in the news, if they knew somebody there. And so I think this whole thing with Charlottesville, as we're thinking through what happened, I feel like one of the things that taught me was this is not a quick process.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you'd use this word to describe your experience, but it's trauma.
Yeah.
It's trauma. Like, you're talking about, you brought up 9/11, like, I feel like that was America's collective PTSD. Yeah. Right? And everyone experienced trauma in that day, just the shock of something happening. Yeah. And I'm sure for many Black Americans, seeing Charlottesville was traumatic. Yeah. And people there experienced trauma. Yeah. Because, I mean, Charlottesville is historically a pretty racist city. Yeah. And what was crazy, I didn't even know this, but we'll get into this later, but Charlottesville was named the happiest city in America. One of the happiest cities in America. Yeah. But there's a lot underneath the surface. Yeah. There's a lot of unspoken trauma underneath the surface that I think Charlottesville, the protests there, brought that out. Yeah. It's interesting. We're also using Charlottesville as an adjective now to describe something. Yeah. Yeah. Is that how nouns work? Is that how we use to describe something?
In America, that is.
Honey, is that how you use an adjective? Is it a descriptor? Is his adjective a descriptor or something? I did not watch Schoolhouse Rock.
Special guest.
Really describe things.
What is it?
Adjectives are words that really describe things.
I need to go back to college.
Special guest, Miss Cannon.
She went to school for English.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Words are hard.
This is such a real episode, man.
We're keeping it. But so Charlottesville, when we use that word now, it's now an adjective. Yeah. It's now something to describe an event that happened. It's no longer you can't separate the town now from that event that happened. Yeah. Which is it's kind of crazy how just a couple hours can change the course of an entire town. And we can even talk about this. I think it might have been rightly needed in many cases. But talking about the aftermath of Charlottesville. You talk about talking through those experiences of processing through emotions, of people dealing with trauma. These things take a while to process through. Like, you can't expect someone who is so closely tied to something, either in your case skin color, to an event. You can't expect them to move on so quickly from an event, even if they're removed from thousands of miles away. There's still that connection there. And so, what have you seen in the aftermath of Charlottesville? What are some things that you've seen, either positive or negative, over the course of the year? Like, what have you seen?
Yeah, I think something like this happens, there's always positive and negative hand to hand. I think a positive that I've seen come out of what happened in Charlottesville is people's a certain group of people's sensitivity towards racial issues has increased. Okay. And so what I mean by that is people that were using the argument that that's just in the past, racism is in the past, that kind of racism is in the past, can't use that argument anymore. People, like, literally, this kind of rolls into, like, the negative effect in a minute, but, like, people knew were at that rally, at that place, saying these evil, wrong things. Yeah. And so I think that breaks down that argument or that wall of, like, well, that is just history. That doesn't affect me now. I think that's been a positive thing. Now people have been the increase of I want to know what's happening. I want to understand the culture. I want to understand, like, how does racism play out now if these things are still being birthed. Sure. But But at the same time, I think one of the biggest negative effects I think Charlottesville has brought out is increased this social media warfare.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, immediately after that, you had people that were going online, looking at the pictures of these guys that are at the rally, posting their pictures and having them like, you need to have him fired from your job. You need to do this. Calling it justice. Now, is that justice? God is the judge of that. And that's why we read that passage. God's going to be the judge if that was justice or not. He is the ultimate judge of that and the ultimate justice bringer. But I think part of their motivation is to be a warrior in the social media realm. And now we've got an increase of people constantly looking for people now doing the wrong racist things. So now you have everyone filming all these Caucasians that are doing things. So it was like barbecue, was it Betty? That girl that called the cops on that guy who was trying to barbecue in the park.
Oh, yeah.
That or Hermit Patty was another one that happened.
Yeah.
That guy at the pool that called the cops because he did anything.
Yeah.
All these things that have come up. And,
yeah.
And I'm not saying those things are wrong to address, but now we are filming it and putting it on social media instead of being like, okay, let's get the cops involved right now. We're putting them on blast with the purpose of saying this person is evil and you need to recognize them. I think that's been a negative effect, honestly, when it comes to that. And so that may be a podcast for a different day when it comes to social media.
Sure.
But I feel like a lot of times with social media, though it is used for good, like whenever I see a missing persons thing on Facebook, I'm like, that's good. That's a great way to use social media.
Yeah.
But whenever we're taking someone who probably is sinning in some form or fashion and putting their video up, it's like, this person did this. We are creating a culture and a world where dealing with racial issues isn't really addressing the racial issues. It's just calling them out, but never calling them to something higher. Now, I'm gonna give grace because those people probably weren't Christians. I would not. I don't know, but if they were, then that's a problem. I think as Christians we have to be on guard with that as well.
That's crazy to think. I'd never even thought about that before, but just like how justice is being taken into our own hands now. We are. Oh goodness gracious! What is that? It's in. Flipping through my Bible here real quick. In the book of Judges. Just a turbulent. I mean, you talk about turbulent times. Yeah. The book of Judges has a lot to say about our time today.
And they did what was right in their own eyes?
Yeah. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Just the idea that we're a law unto ourselves. That's Romans 2 through 3. We are a law unto ourselves because we have the law of God written on our hearts. And so take justice into our own hands. In some way, we become our own vigilantes in that sense. Now, I mean, I don't know if we can get into the minutia, whether it's right or wrong to call out the people who were at the rally. But I think that is a negative side effect of this, is that we're seeing, but also in that the wrong people were also called out in those things. So like people were mistakenly either fired from their jobs or were mistakenly harassed by people because they were mistaken in their identity at the rally. So like we're seeing this kind of move towards, and it's been moving that way towards a while, of mob rule. Of people piling on to something. Putting pressure on people. It's really mob rule. That's not democracy. It's mob rule. And whoever is the loudest is the people who win. I think that's a huge negative. I'm really glad you brought that up. Something that I saw coming out of Charlottesville was this fracturing of identity. I think underneath all of it, Charlottesville was a crisis of identity. It's crazy to see that a number 3 spot in the happiest towns in the United States experienced the lightning rod of racism, of just absolute violence and bloodshed there. And I think it showed how important identity and worldview is. Because you had 2 groups. You had, I think you probably had multiple groups, but dumbing it down, you had two groups. You had Antifa and the alt-right.
Yeah.
The alt-right, which is a far-right organization started by Richard Spencer, who is a self-avowed white nationalist, a white supremacist, coined this term alt-right and has become this kind of online army that continually attacks minorities, who it doesn't matter what you think of Ben Shapiro, but was the number one target of alt-right with derogatory anti-Semitism towards them. They're anti-Semitic. They are racist people who are promoting ethnocentrism. These are not good people. And then you had, on the other hand, far left activists. You had Antifa, who have a history of violence against people on college campuses, against people of free speech. They stand for anti-fascist, but they use fascist techniques to shut down speech. They're also not good people. You had the identity of the alt-right grounded in whiteness as an identity. Grounded in a culture, a specific heritage as an identity. And you had over here are the Antifa, the far left activists, who ground their identity in identity politics, who ground themselves as groups, and who seek justice for themselves. And in the same way, the alt-right seek justice for themselves as well. But you see that more so with people who believe and subscribe to identity politics. Seeing people in groups and creating a culture of where free speech is not allowed. And so you had these two groups that had powerful worldviews, that have enticing worldviews for people, clashing. I mean, what did you expect? You had far left activists, you had far right activists coming together in a city that has a lot of racism underneath the foundation and the surface of it, that was built on racism, that still struggles with it. I mean, there is incredible racial disparities in Charlottesville. Then you also have the Confederate Monument debate as well, which is another podcast that we need to talk about. But all these things colliding, it was a crisis of identity. You saw a town fracturing in the midst of that. And we got to see how powerful identity and worldview is. Which is why I think it was important for us to have that episode on sound doctrine. Because these people were subscribing to a doctrine. Alt-right activists and Antifa activists are subscribing to a doctrine. And doctrine is so incredibly important. And even in the aftermath of this, you have Charlottesville itself. I just read an article from the New York Times talking about how even the town of Charlottesville is fractured in how to move forward. They don't know how to move forward in this. You have people on one side who say they want to go back to how things were. And the other side saying, no, we need to talk about these things and keep bringing this up. And they're splintered in how they address these things.
That was really good, man. People always say I want to go back. I was like, how far are you talking? Like, you know, that's my question. Like, people always ask the question, like, if you can live in a different period of time, what period of time would you want to live in?
Sure. And
people always go like, oh, the 1940s, 50s, 30s, whatever. This. Then they come to me and they go, Matt, what period? I was like, I don't want to go back in time, because the further back I go, the worse it gets. And so I think if they're talking about, like, I always ask, what do you mean, like, go back? Like, and I think I didn't know the fact what you said, that they're the third happiest place in the United States. You know, and my question, as soon as you said that, I was like, my first thought was like, what makes them happy?
Sure.
Like, because it sounds like if after this all happened in Charlottesville, what made them happy was the status quo. No one was rubbing or talking or dealing with issues that have been building for years and years and years. I think that's the status quo that they're happy with. And so I think that's a hard situation. And like, I pray for Charlottesville. I pray for people in Charlottesville. But after things like this happen, I don't think there's ever a way to go back. I don't think you're supposed to go back. If we believe God is sovereign, He allows these things to happen, it is always for us to move in a different direction, move forward, move closer to Him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't think going back is always the answer.
Yeah. No, there was a, I pull up the article now. There was somebody quoted in the article because they elected a new mayor.
Okay.
After Charlottesville, basically all of the people who were in power at that time, they're out.
Yeah.
All of them are gone. It's a new office, new mayor, new everything.
Wow. Okay.
And so there was someone who was quoted in this article. I can't remember where. I'll link to this in show notes. It's a great article.
Yeah.
But someone was quoted as saying the new mayor just wants to keep bringing up the old stuff. They just want to keep on talking about the old stuff, but we need to move on towards creating a bigger culture of tourism in Charlottesville.
Okay, that's
the status quo.
Exactly, status quo. I think, like, when he says the mayor's talking about the old stuff, like, what do you mean by that? Like, if we are in let me just use the Christian analogy, like, if someone in your church is constantly going back to the same sin, you have to always ask the question, okay, why do you keep coming back to that?
Yeah.
But you don't ask that question in order to go back to that and stay back there. You ask that question in order to help them move forward closer to Christ.
Yeah.
And like, I think status quo is a dangerous thing, man. And I think, to give a little grace to that situation, I think status quo comes from this place of like, not necessarily not wanting to deal with the problem, but also like, it's tiring.
Yeah.
They're probably, the person that said that is probably tired of remembering and thinking about what happened in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
And I get that. I understand there's grace in that. And I think the call in that situation may not necessarily mean like just get to the status quo, but like rest and then press forward. But I think a part of moving forward is talking about what happened.
Yeah.
So, I got a question for you though.
Okay.
Kind of talking about this idea of talking about everything. Do you think that the racial conversation has gotten better or worse ever since Charlottesville? And if so, why?
I'm
just gonna go. Okay, all right.
I think it's. I honestly think it's. To me, it's stayed the same or it's gotten worse, and I think a lot of that was. I don't know if people were equipped with the language or the worldview to talk about what happened at Charlottesville.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about, like, we can't say this stuff is in the past anymore. We never believed that in the first place.
Right.
We have ideas that are prevalent today that were just as prevalent in the 1960s.
Yeah.
Ideas of racial superiority. And I don't know if people were equipped enough to have conversations about these things, which is why I think people then took to social media and kind of stuck with their own tribes and created even more fracturing in those arenas. But I think social media has done a lot, but I think it's done a lot of great harm to the racial reconciliation debate, especially after Charlottesville. Which you had so many people piling on, and I don't know if the president's remarks after that helped in any way.
Can you just kind of expound what his remarks were after?
So
that?
his remarks afterwards were there was violence on many sides. There were bad people on both sides, and I don't want it to seem like I am dogging on the president for things. I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for Hillary either. But those kind of remarks weren't very helpful. In the sense of, in that moment, we needed him to call out specifically the racism that was there, and it just didn't happen. I understand that Antifa is a violent group. I totally get that. I agree. But Antifa didn't kill someone. Antifa didn't drive a car into protesters. And in that moment, we needed a president to say, this is terrible. This is bad and tragic, and the alt-right needs to be denounced.
Yeah.
In all shape, ways, and forms. And that's a separate conversation, but I don't know if we necessarily have gotten a lot of that from this administration. And so I think that also created fracturing in this as well. And so, I don't know if people were equipped. Social media has kind of exacerbated everything in this conversation. I don't know if that answered your question at all.
No, I think that's good. I think I agree with you in the sense, like, language is key. We strive for, like, on this podcast, we strive for definitions.
Yeah.
And how we use words.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's really important because if we don't define, people can put their own definitions into those things. And I think you're right in the idea of the language wasn't there. And so, like, if I remember correctly, Vice did a video about what was happening to the alt-right. You know?
Yeah.
And in there, the guy says, we don't hate people of different ethnicities. We're just really pro us. You know, that's a kind of paraphrase of what he said. But yet, following behind that, the other people's language was like, these N-words, these Jews are coming in doing this, and this. All right, so you're saying two different things with your words. It's like, which one do you mean? And I think becoming more broad in that and involving other people, our conversations since Charlottesville have become more assuming we all have the same definition of the same words. And because we assume that, then things happen, we argue, we disagree on things. We are forced to, this is what I've learned to do in the past few months since Charlottesville, is ask, okay, what do you mean by that? So I'll say, hey, that's kind of racist that this person did this. Like, well, I don't think it was racist. I think it was this. Okay, how do you define racism?
Sure.
Well, I define it this way. Okay, this is where I see the definition of racism being played in here. I think that helps with the conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't see that happening. I think it has gotten... I think it's gotten more... I don't think it's gotten better. Honestly, I'm gonna be real. I'm trying to be.
You want to be charitable, but
exactly. I'm gonna give grace and everything, but I don't think it's gotten that much better.
Yeah.
I think it's happening more. I think it's happening.
People are more aware of it for sure.
But it hasn't gotten better, and I think, let's be real, I think that's because a lot of us, including myself, wrestle with pride. I think we wrestle with pride. It's like, I've got the answers. No one else sees my viewpoint. Therefore, I'm not going to really listen to what this person's saying. I'm going to hear what they're saying, but I have a thought of what my answer is going to be to their argument. But I'm not going to listen to what they're saying. Like, why do they think that? Not asking follow-up questions. Bro, I think questions are the best ways to talk about racial issues. If we're not willing to ask questions and not leading questions, I should do a blog about this, not leading questions to lead to your answer, but asking real, authentic questions like, why do you feel that way? Like, be genuinely, like, about that. Like, I was telling you earlier, like, I saw, we shared an article on our page on Facebook written by Jarvis Williams.
Yeah.
And the article was talking about how to talk to your children about racial reconciliation issues. And I made the rookie mistake of looking at the comment section. And people on there are just, like, bashing the article. And they brought up the whole thing of, like, I shouldn't have to repent for the sins that I didn't do. And, like, do we repent for the sins of the nation? And, like...
Episode 9.
Episode 9, listen to it. And I was listening, I was like, that's not even what the article is about. It's not about what you did. It's about helping your children see and deal with racial issues. More specifically, African-American parents helping their kids walk through issues, but then also broadening out to everyone else, like, you need to talk to your kids about these 3 things. And I was like, y'all taking this totally different way. And so, like, my anger started to boil up, and I was about to say something snarky because it was, like, midnight. I should never do that at midnight.
I mean, there are 2 rookie mistakes in a row. Exactly. You looked at the comment section, and it was, like, late at night. Like, not good.
I was like, oh, let's see what Jarvis got to say. Oh, these people are grinding my gears. But my response instead was, Lord's gracious, even when we're sleepy. I just responded to the article and said, hey, this is a really good article. Thank you for sharing this, Jarvis. I woke up the next morning to a message from a guy from Canada saying, hey, I saw your comment on Facebook. you are one of the few African Americans or black people that had a positive response to the article, ignoring everything else. But you see all these other people saying these things. What is your thought on that? On what this? And I was encouraged.
That's awesome, dude.
That was crazy. Like, a dude from Canada messaged me, a Christian dude from Canada messaged me out of nowhere because he saw how I responded to, in the midst of all this criticism and negativity, with positivity. And this is not one of those, like, hey, be positive and good things will happen kind of things. But, like, he saw that, and his response wasn't to go, I think this. But his response was like, I'm going to ask you a question. That, to me, I was like, okay, now that's an invitation. Now we can talk about these things, and I'm going to ask you questions. Because I automatically started thinking of questions like, what's racism like in Canada? Particularly in your neighborhood. Why does this interest you? You're seeing it from a different view. What is your viewpoint? Because he mentioned, like, I have a different worldview. I'm like, okay, what's your worldview? I want to know what it is before I even try to answer your questions.
We've lost the art of being able to listen. We've lost the art of persuasiveness.
Yes.
Os Guinness wrote an incredible book called Fool's Talk, where he broke down the issue in our society today of we've lost the ability to persuade people. And we persuade people by asking questions. We push their worldview to where it leads, to the logical conclusion of it. And we've lost the ability to do that. I mean, I love the fact that interaction happens because on social media, that rarely happens. I mean, I think there was a Babylon Bee article where it was like, man saved because of conversation on Facebook. Like, it never happens. I've had some good interactions with people on social media. I've made great connections with people on social media. But it's dichotomized how we listen and what we assume about people. Because as soon as you say something about the police, you're anti-police. Or you're just pro-police, you're not going to listen to people. Or you say something sympathetic to Black Lives Matter. Oh, you hate police? Oh, you hate our president? You're just like, no, of course not. And we've lost the ability to listen. We've lost the ability to persuade. We've lost the ability to view people as complex imago Deis. We are complex people. We have different motivations for things and how we reason things out. And that's why sitting down, having coffee, there's coffee all over here.
Real talk all day.
Real talk. Sitting down, having coffee, having a conversation on the couch makes a difference in how you see the other person and how you see how they reason things out, how you ask questions. And I wish more of that happened after Charlottesville. And I think there's a lot more opportunities for us even to push that conversation forward in person or over Skype or over Facebook, just asking questions. These things can take place in a healthy way on Facebook. They can take place in a healthy way on Twitter. It's all in how you approach it. It's all in how you ask the questions. It's embracing a spirit of humility. I don't care if you disagree with us on these topics. That's fine. But we want to have a conversation about these things. You know, I want to hear what you have to say, and I want you to hear what I have to say about these things. I think that's just super important.
I want to add on to that the whole idea of questions. Like, if we even hesitate to think about, like, well, maybe I don't need to ask questions, then look at Jesus. Look at Jesus. I remember reading through the Gospels, and I'm actually reading through Luke right now at my personal time, and I read the story of it was like I think it was chapters 11 and 12. Sorry, 10, 11, 11, 12. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it had the rich young ruler come to him and says, "Lord, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus' response isn't, "Oh, do this, 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 and this." His response to that man is like, well, "What does the law say?" Like, first of all, Jesus is Jesus and Jesus is God. So therefore, he knows the man's heart and why he's asking this question. So he's going to lead him towards that. But ultimately, Jesus' response a lot of times in those situations isn't like, do this, this, this. He said, I'm going to ask you a question to help, to bring you along in this conversation. I'm going to bring you to eternal life, but you have to do something in that. And so, I think like questions are so important in the racial conversation. I think, and then like after it's kind of going back to Charlottesville, this idea of people's responses right away on social media were good, and when they say they mourn and things like that, but I think sometimes we have to take a step back from social media. I don't think I posted anything on social media about Charlottesville. I don't remember doing anything like that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Mainly because I was just like, I can't do this. And I think that's another thing, man. I think we need to stop using social media a lot of times to share information. You talked about earlier about trauma, and I'm going to say this. One of the most traumatizing things that I think that happens today is when people share those negative or horrifying videos of Charlottesville or a black man getting shot or things like that, and calling it sharing information. Every time you share that, I think a lot of people are rewatching it over and over again, and they're either numbing themselves to the actual pain of what's happening, or they're hurting themselves in their mental and spiritual realm. Yeah. And I think we have to be careful not to share that over and over again.
I almost kind of liken it to, it's our modern day, social media has become our modern day Coliseum. We have real life people getting killed on our timeline. We can see it happening. There's the danger now of live streaming murders. There's the danger of live streaming these horrific, brutal things that are happening. Yeah. And people watch that stuff. They share that stuff. And, I want to assume the best of people. Maybe they have the intention of, hey, this is crazy.
Yeah.
We need to do something about this. I want to be able to be charitable with those things. But, man, I've heard from several other African Americans that seeing those things can be traumatizing.
Yeah, very much so.
Seeing those images and those videos can be super hurtful. So, man, like, when stuff like Charlottesville happens, how can we respond in a godly way to those things?
Yeah. I think the first response is that it's most godly in those situations is to go to God. I think that is the first and primary response we need to have. I think sometimes we're so quick to either want to share it on Facebook or social media, of any kind, or we are so quick to want to. Hobbs is getting into this conversation right now.
He's all in it.
I think we're so quick to share on Facebook or social media, or we're so quick to come up with our own conclusions.
Yeah.
Instead of going to the Lord and asking, like, Lord, I don't know the full story yet.
Yeah.
But I know that you're present. You see these things happening. You're an active God. What is going on?
Yeah.
And give me wisdom on how to navigate those things.
Yeah.
I think another response we need to do is, if you have an African American friend or a family member or someone that's involved in that realm, you need to reach out to them after you talk to the Lord. I think you need to contact them via text, via phone call, via email, something, to let them know that you are thinking of that person. You're praying for that person. I got so many texts and emails, not necessarily with the Charlottesville one, but when the Stockley verdict came out.
Yeah.
I had so many texts from pastors to family members to people that I just hang out with regularly. Like, hey, I'm praying for you. I'm thinking about you, brother. Love you, man. Love you. My girlfriend was with me during that time, and she just being present with the minority that is affected by that is crucial. I think that's the first godly thing that we need to do, because that's part of the body hurting. So like, one of the worst feelings that a person can have in everyday life is that they stub their toe, right?
Yeah.
But I've never seen someone stub their toe and just keep walking. There's a natural reaction to hop, to relieve that pain some kind of way, right?
Yeah.
Like you're hopping, you're stopping, you're bending over, you're bending your foot, you're wiggling, trying to get the blood circulating, whatever it is.
Saying some choice words.
Because it hurts.
Yeah.
And I think that's crucial, man.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, when those things are coming out, I can speak from experience. The minority does feel isolated. He feels isolated. She feels isolated. And that isolation they express in different ways. And and it responds in different ways. Some are angry, some are confused, some are sad, some are just like, I'm done, I want to give up.
Yeah.
But they are feeling some kind of isolation, and so like reaching out to them is key.
Yeah.
I think another response is in that moment is getting the story. After all that is when you start to get the story together.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's on Facebook. Honestly, I think you need to look up actual news articles.
Yeah.
I think you need to do those things. Look up both sides of the news articles, not just the one that you tend to lean towards or favor holistically.
Yep.
Get the full story, but when you get the full story, don't come at it like because this is my natural thing, trying to piece together a puzzle so you can have the full truth. But get the whole story from different sides so you know how to address different people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think going off of that, I think that we as a church need to learn how to lament well. I think we lost the idea of lamentation in our culture.
Yeah.
Of being able to go to God with our hearts, just like the prophet Habakkuk did. And how long, Lord, how long is this going to continue? How long will we have to endure these things? And I think it's being able to get on your knees. Going off of tying it together of get off social media and get on your knees. And pray to the living God who hears you, who understands your pain, who understands the pain of every single person in Charlottesville and every single person in the world, who hears you.
Yeah.
People think that prayer is useless or that prayer doesn't lead to anything. Man, we believe in a God who judges.
Yeah.
We believe in a God who is sovereign, sustainer over all things. And we go to him in prayer.
Yeah.
Things happen. Powerful things happen when we pray. Because prayer is the relationship. Prayer is how we communicate to God. And we're praying to a sovereign creator. And we may not understand everything that's happening, and it may be all out of our control, which is probably a good thing.
Because Lord knows I'll be down there and not doing the right things.
Yeah, exactly. And so just going to him and confessing where we're sinning and lamenting what has happened. If you're so numb to these things, if you're so numb to police brutality, if you're so numb to police shootings, if you're so numb to these events like Charlottesville, man, evaluate where your heart is in these things. Evaluate, why don't I feel something right now for this? Why do I feel numb to this? It may be because you're on social media too much and you see these things so often. I love the fact that we get information so quickly. But man, it can be devastating because we can see negative things happening every single day and we become numb. To these things. We become numb. And in some certain situations, a social media fast is what's necessary. To get your heart aligned to a godly perspective. So get off social media, get off those platforms and get on your knees. I think also community is so important. We had Charlottesville and then we had church. Man, just we need each other in these moments, in these times. We need people to process through our emotions. We need people to hear our pain and our questions, and our natural tendency is to withdraw from community. I know it's my tendency is when something happens, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to stew in this. That's my natural tendency, and I have to fight against that to be in community. Fight against that to be in the gospel community. Fight against that to go to church. I have to fight against that natural tendency because we need community. God has hardwired that into us. In the beginning, Adam needed a helper, and he created a helper so that they can be in a marriage, but also a community together. Bro. They needed each other, and so I think that's several of the ways that we can move forward when stuff like this happens.
Yeah, and coming from talking about the community aspect, I think coming from a minority perspective, I'm first blessed and so grateful to be in a community that reaches out.
Yeah.
And I also know that if it wasn't for that, I think there is a potential for skepticism for a person of minority to have.
Yeah.
Walking in after something like Charlottesville happens.
Yeah.
Walking to your predominantly white congregation or go to your job that's predominantly white. And the question will arise in your head is like, what do they think? Do they side with me or are they on the other side?
Yeah.
And some people are like, I don't care what side you are. I know who I am, and I'm gonna fight regardless of who you are.
Yeah.
But that can create this barrier of relation. So like, I think as a minority walking to a predominantly white context, I think that you also have to fight that. And like, this is my community, specifically in the church. I'm talking here. You have to fight that temptation to be like, I'm alone in this, because there is a way that they don't relate to me, and they might actually disagree with me on that, and I don't know if I can fully engage them with that. That is real. Yeah, that's a real question you have to ask yourself. But if you trust the sovereignty of the Lord, and He puts you in that context. Yeah. Then you have to, at least with one or two people, find some people you can trust with that. Yeah. And pour your heart out. You know. So yeah, man, I think that was a good point talking about community. We need each other. Yeah, and absolutely. We need to fight for that.
So wrapping up, what's the future of these conversations? There's obviously another rally, which would be tomorrow, which is Sunday, August 12th.
Yeah, that's 12th.
August 12th, 2018. Yes. We're recording this on Saturday, the 11th. Yeah. This will go out Monday, the 13th. So we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah. Man, what do you see as the future of these conversations going?
Okay, reality or hope?
Both. Let's do both. Let's positive, negative. I don't know. Negative.
I would hope and pray that the future conversations would be ones full of questions, ones full of open to hear the other side. Yeah. Ones where we are fighting our own pride and self-centeredness and how we view things. I have to fight that on the regular when we talk about racial issues. Yeah. I have to fight the idea, well, I'm a black man, so you don't know what you don't know what you're talking about kind of stuff. I think I would hope that our conversations would also be ones where we lay a foundation of definitions. And ones that we can come in and say, hey, so we're going to be friends, be brothers and sisters in Christ once we leave this conversation, regardless of how we come out. Yeah. I think we have to start in that realm. And I think it'll be conversations, not a focus on necessarily, well, I view it this way, I view it this way. What is God's view in this, and how do we move towards God's view in this together? Yeah. Regardless of how we disagree. I'm always thinking about Paul and John Mark and Barnabas situation, man. Yes, there was separation because John Mark, young in his faith and young in the ministry, bolted. Yeah. And so Barnabas, being I call him the optimist, it was like, no, he's fine. Let's just encourage him, keep him going. And Paul, being more of the Paul realist that he was, like, no, he left me, he's gone, I'm done with him. But in the end, by the end of Paul's life, we see that they have all reconciled. And so that gives me hope in these conversations. Regardless of how we come like an optimist like Barnabas or a realist like Paul, in the end, God gets the glory. Yeah. As long as we can go on the same mission. And so, if the mission is the gospel and the gospel deals with racial reconciliation, then I think if we in a conversation going that direction, I think it'd be good. Yeah. Realist, I think the conversation going forward is still gonna be hard. Yeah. I think it's gonna be riddled with a lot of tears and frustration, a lot of like, I just don't get it, and we have to be okay with that. I think we have to be okay with that, and that is hard for me to say because I'm a Barnabas optimist. So whenever this episode comes out, we're looking back on the Charlottesville thing, and now we're going to be able to have a conversation with it well. And I just reality says it's going to be hard. Optimist and God focus says it's going to be worth it. Yeah. What about you, man?
Yeah, I think kind of going off of that, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I think we're coming to a point in our country and in our discourse where people are becoming so hardened to each other that these conversations are probably going to be impossible without the Holy Spirit's work in their hearts, in their lives. I think you have so many questions and debates coming up now about hate speech, what defines hate speech. You have all these questions about rights, what is protected under the First Amendment, all these different things coming from Antifa and then coming from the alt-right as well. I think these conversations are just going to keep on boiling and until the point where something overflows. I don't know. That's the realist in me looking at the situation. I don't know. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, but I think the conversation is getting better in the church. I'm hopeful that these conversations continue to move forward as we ask questions, as we press into the Lord and ask God, what does your word say about this topic? What does your word say about ethnicity? What does your word say about justice? What does your word say about how we react to these events that come up? And just humbly going before God and asking him for wisdom in all these things. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful about where the church is heading in these discussions, and especially in our context, we're seeing a lot of fruit and a lot of growth having started this podcast, and seeing the fruit being born out of these discussions. And so, realist in me for the world is, I don't think it looks good, but I think for the church, God's faithful for his people. And what he has started, he will complete. He will. As the judge of the world. And so I think that is our hope. That's our foundation. When the world's going crazy, when the nations are raging, peoples are plotting in vain, our hope is that the God in heaven is laughing. And our hope is that God has everything in his control. And we hope in him, we trust in him, and that is our way forward. That's our way forward in racial reconciliation. That's our way forward in any and all of these conversations moving forward.
Can I tell a story real quick? I think to end on a hopeful note. I think you saw this on Facebook, and I shared it on my Facebook, of a man who was involved in the KKK. Was at the Charlottesville, and then in his video said that they weren't hateful enough, so he became a Nazi. Was at the alt-right movement at Charlottesville a year ago. And now, months later, almost a year later now, he is now repented of that. He's repenting of his hatred towards minorities. Not because he had self-realization, but God used a black pastor who did nothing, according to the video, but to invite him to church. He and his fiancée to church. And in that moment, the man says, I'll just give it a shot. And now that man is now a Christian. He was baptized. And they asked him how he felt at his baptism, and I think it was in a river. And he said, it's like better than that last time I was in a robe. That is the truth of the gospel and racial reconciliation. It is not enough for us to say people need to stop hating each other and just love each other. But we are seeing literally enemies become friends that will rejoice together in heaven.
That's the gospel we believe in. The gospel is, this is going to be controversial, the gospel is for white supremacists. The gospel is for Nazis. The gospel is for Antifa. The gospel is for far left activists. And is for people, the left, right, in the middle. The gospel is for those people. And if we try to do things on our own power, we're going to fail. We're going to fail in these conversations. We're going to fail in enacting just laws. The gospel is powerful enough to take a man's rock solid heart against people of African American skin color and melt it completely to a point where he can repent and is now a faithful member of a black church. That That is the God that we believe in. Yeah. That is the God that we follow. That is the God that we are trusting in these conversations. And whatever happens tomorrow, whatever happened yesterday, as the podcast airs, whatever happens in the future, we have a God who is sovereign.
Yes.
We have a God who is on the move. We have a God who is working in the hearts and minds of the people of this world, and we are on mission now to proclaim the excellencies of his character and nature.
Yes. Yeah.
We proclaim the gospel in every single one of these conversations. And racial reconciliation is a part of that gospel conversation.
Yeah, man.
And so we move forward in that in faith and trust, knowing that God is the judge of the righteous and the wicked. That's our hope.
Yeah. Amen, bro.
So, yeah. All right. Well, this has been Coffee and Cream. This has been an impromptu episode of Coffee and Cream. So hopefully we'll be back in 2 weeks hopefully in the studio. We'll see. That's a prayer. We trust in God.
Yes, we do.
To get us there. So guys, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. We would love to hear from you on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We want to thank our sponsors, JM Films. You can check them out at jmfilms.com and head on over to switchcoffee.co. Enter our promo code Coffee and Cream for 10% off your next order. This episode was produced by Nick Francis and was not mixed by David Butler.
We miss you, man.
We miss you. This episode was mixed by me, so address all your inquiries of audio engineering to me for this episode. We'll see what happens. But that is it for this episode of Coffee and Cream. We will see you guys again in 2 weeks.
I'm gonna pretend like I'm talking right now because the music's gonna fade out.
Yeah.
And it's gonna keep going.
Yep.
And it's gonna.
Yep.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
Da 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 da.
It's like this. It's like. And that's Coffee and Cream.